Hi everyone, today we're going to be doing an iMotions tutorial on how to export and analyze some data. So first you're going to want to open iMotions and navigate to your study. We're going to be using this class demo. And you're going to want to first, before anything, we're going to click on Post Process. And we want to process all this data. So we're just going to click OK. And all of this is going to be processing. And if you ever see some blurry things, that's because we just have some student names and we want to keep those blocked out and private. And I close that because we can always go to background jobs and open it back up again. We can see what's in the job queue like this. We can see what's completed. We can see if there's any errors. And it shouldn't take too long, so we can just wait for a little bit. You can also start building your study and then go back and refresh the post process, but I recommend waiting if you have the time. And you can see here, they're going pretty fast. So as you can see here, we have a welcome slide and end slide, some breaks, and we have our actual stimuli. We only really need to study this research over here unless we wanted to get into some really fine details of what people were experiencing over here. But then for now, that'll just make it easier when we actually do our export to only look at this data. And as you can see, we're almost done. Okay, perfect. Now that all of that processing is done, we can go ahead and make a new analysis by clicking right here. And this is named the same as our study, which should be fine, but if you're doing more than one, you have to remember to name it accordingly. And then here, if you wanted to separate by gender, age, or different groups, you totally can. And now we're going to create our signal processing, and these have to be in this order, so please be careful. First, you're going to do the effectiva affects, and we're going to do thresholding, and these channels here should be moved to 25, and that's because essentially what these numbers are how accurate the AI is and like the processing is that is taking in data. So if you have it closer to 100, it has to be really accurate to like what a human would do. And the lower the numbers are, the less accurate it may be to how a human would analyze it. And we want to have those lower because people aren't going to have as strong of emotions as they would, per se, watching an action movie or maybe a horror movie. These are just some pretty simple Instagram posts. There's not a lot of intense reactions, so we want to drop those down, which basically just makes it easier for the system to read what's happening. Then we're going to click the plus and we're going to click the effectiva affects again, and we're going to do thresholding aggregation, and this is fine. And oops, I click next. We actually don't want to click next. We want to click devices shimmer, and then we're going to do GSR peak detection. All of these are great. And then we're going to do shimmer again and do GSR peak bend aggregation. We're going to drop this to 3000 because 3000 milliseconds is 3 seconds. And essentially that means it's going to bend together each segment of 3 seconds to study everything that was going on with the shimmer device. So that's like heart rate and GSR. That's just going to be the best way to do that. And if you had a significantly longer video, you would maybe want to add more time on. And if you had a very, very short video with minuscule changes happening every second, maybe you would want to drop that down. And as we talked about before, we can now take off these slides. We just have our 2 stimuli. We'll click add. Okay, perfect. Now we're in and we can see all of our data. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we can open up our analysis. And here we can see, play. We can watch our participant. And we can also go up here. We can look at different respondents. And we can click on this to toggle between our two stimuli, in which case these are different captions. And we can look at a bunch of these different settings. So first, we're going to go in and we're going to want to add this GSR. So this is the intensity of those emotions being felt through the fingertips. Let's just add more emotions here. Perfect. And we can also add, let's do smile. And you can also go through and add some other things. We're good for now. I think we have more than enough. So now also, if we want to be able to have a better way of seeing these, we could click area, and we could do apply to whole group. And you can also change the color. We'll also do that here, area, apply to group, and area. Great. So now we can look at this data here and say we just want to export a simple screenshot, maybe right here. We can click on this button, export image, all visible panels, show info bar, and we don't need the timeline or the labels on media. So we're going to click export image with the info Brianna. Great. Now when we open that up, we now have this, which is perfect. It was just what we wanted. We could also do the same thing by exporting video, and we can do a custom time range and drag to exactly where we want to see exported, or we could do the full thing. Keep this at 30 frames per second and MP4. You could also do batch options to export more than one at once. You would just click export and you'd get your video. And then something else we can do that's interesting is go into AOI, and we can start drawing some AOIs around some of these components. So we could draw an AOI around, and that's something I always do is don't just click and start drawing. You have to click over here at the start drawing button. So I'm gonna name this one profile pic I. That's not a one, it's an I because we're on Fenty info. And let's make it blue. So now we have this as our profile picture AOI. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. As long as you're in range, you should be set. And then let's draw another AOI and call it username I. Perfect. And then follow plus more I. This one we're going to do a custom shape. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we have this custom shape here. And we're going to do little lights, interactions. And then we're going to do lights. And option. And I'm going to do another one over the caption. And I'm going to name this one names. Looks like I did forget to put an I there, but that's okay. This one, make sure it's a color distinct from that green. I just want to see if there's any interesting data that comes from reading these names. And then while we're at it, let's also add some AOIs on the picture itself. So I will here. No. And I. Okay, and I'm pretty happy with those, so let's just leave that there. And then let's look at this one. We're gonna have to make those again. So I'll just jump ahead to that really quick. So now we have some pretty similar words here. And while we're at it, let's just add one for the bookmark. Perfect. And now we can look at these heat maps as well of where people's eyes are going. See if those line up, which they should. And if they don't, we can also add some heat maps. We can add some AOIs anywhere. We could also add these one. Just this is where everyone's eyes went. But really what we want to do first is go into this aggregate and let's look at these binned peaks. So when we drop these binned peaks in, we can see that here we have only 3 as our highest, which means 3 out of our 6 people hit the threshold of essentially like a yes or no of if there was a peak or not in their GSR. So for the majority of the beginning of this, there was 3 peaks, and then it dropped down to 1, but we were never at 0. And then we can check these emotions and see where they're at. Looks like anger, that we didn't have any, so we can get rid of it. So now that we added all these, we can hit play and see where people's eyes are moving and also where they're moving in and out of these boxes, although that's also being calculated elsewhere. And if we want, we could export one of these videos just like this too. And remember that we have replay, aggregate, and AOI up here to work on. But we're actually going to close this and go to export. And in export, we're going to go to our processing and our AOI metrics report, which includes all of these different metrics. And then we're going to go down to the AFDEX metrics report and the GSR metrics report. There's some other things we can export, but these are going to be the best for now. We're going to export individual files here for all of these. We'll just do it right onto our desktop and make a new folder. And then we're going to wait. All right, I'm going to Google Drive and import our data. So we're going to do a Google Sheet, file, import, upload, browse. We're going to click on desktop. We're going to click in here. We're going to click on eye tracking first. Open. We wanted the aggregated. And great. We want to insert new sheet. Perfect. And then file, import, upload, browse. And open this up.
And that has been a tutorial on how to export data out of iMotions. For more tutorials, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can find more information about the lab at gvsu.edu/soc/biometrics.